Hello and welcome to Heart Centered Conversations with me, Jane McDowell, where I talk to people about books that have inspired them and helped shifted their perception so they do something wonderful in the world. And today I am so very grateful and pleased to introduce my guest, a woman who looms large in my life because she is one of my mentors, my spiritual mentors. Ginny, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jane. So I am Ginny Brown. When you said introduce yourself, I was thinking, well, how am I going to do that? Because I feel like I quite often wear a few different hats. Um, but I guess introducing myself in this framework would be spiritual teacher, shaman, practicing woman of magic, I would say. I think I'm on a bit of a personal quest to bring back the wise and old ways. I think that describes me best.
Beautiful. So, Ginny, tell me, what book have you bought today for our conversation?
It was a hard choice because I'm a bit of a book collector, but I only tend to keep the books that I feel like I would read again and that have real purpose in my life. So the book I'm talking about today is The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Um, yeah, it's been quite a powerful and inspirational book in my own life and development. So I thought it was quite a good one to bring
Mm.
along.
So, when did you first come across this book, Ginny?
I was thinking about that this morning, actually. And I want to say it was probably in the early 2000s. It was quite early on after it was published. I think it was published kind of in the late 1990s. And I remember I definitely had a couple of my children, and I was going through a bit of a tricky time. And it was recommended to me by a friend. And I picked it up and I thought, oh, I don't know, just a lot. There's a lot in here. But actually, as I read it, there was just something that really resonated with where I was in that place and
Mm.
really helped me on that tricky journey I was on at the time. And so it's become one, as you can see, it's a bit frazzled,
Oh, yeah.
well loved, and I return to it a lot. So yeah, just got so much from it. So yeah, I think about the early 2000s.
Mm. And what was the overriding message that you took from it at that first reading?
So I think it really helped me to pick apart the reality that I'd conceived and was living by that narrative because of experience. And the message that I took away from it was a sense of actually you can rewrite that narrative and you can understand things from a much deeper perspective. And actually, the key message is in its title. It was about being completely present and focused on just where you are in that moment.
Mm.
Because I think, when tricky experiences and challenges come into our lives, we can get wrapped up in them. And he spoke about several different concepts within the book that I could relate to that people really do as a human experience. But actually, if you detach yourself from that just slightly, you can actually see things for what they are and what's real and what space you actually want to be in. So
Mm.
it was quite powerful in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did it bring to the front for you your ability to choose how you react to things and circumstances and people, and how did that help you get through the issues that you were facing at the time?
Yeah. So I think what it enabled me to do was to turn off the mental chatter.
Mm.
So lots of the analysis. So it talks about this place of being in the waiting room. So where we live our lives in this space of I will be happy when things will be better if, and then we're constantly waiting for the next thing. And so what he helped me to do, which, facing those challenges, was about actually that none of that is promised, and actually thinking about it in terms of that waiting room is a space in itself, and that waiting for something that isn't going to be promised is not going to be the answer. And so you have to find the joy in the things that are positive for you right now in this moment. The only thing that's real is me saying these words to you right now, because
Mm.
everything else is gone, and
Yeah.
everything going forward, we just don't know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah.
Um, I may have digressed from the question there, but I just remember that really sticking with me, and about how we can just get really fixed in our place of pain. And so he talks about the pain body and how that happens from a very, very young age, and we kind of bury them, and it can stay dormant for quite some time, and then events can happen that brings everything to the surface. And it can confuse you as to what is real in this moment, what is it that you've been carrying, and can be quite confronting. And how we sometimes resist that, and so we push these things away, and push experiences and issues and pain away, and in that we create a barrier between our authentic spirit, soul self, and our actual being that can be filled with all kinds of yuck,
Yeah.
self-doubt, how we can kind of surrender and embrace those things. And that isn't a passive action, and that's okay. So there was lots of healing within those realizations as well, that
Yeah.
I've been able to share with other people through some of the teachings that I do. Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. And so did the book help you on your path to being the teacher that you are now? Or
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There was something, it's described itself as a book of spiritual enlightenment, and I would absolutely see that, because I was starting to once again view myself as a spirit and soul rather than just this being having a human experience, and how we navigate the two. And actually, we come here, my belief, and what I teach is that we come here with our soul's contract and purpose, and that, there are certain things that we are destined to achieve within these lifetimes, lessons and blessings, so forth. But actually, we're also having a human experience. And what this book helped me to do quite early on, and before I even knew that I was necessarily going to step onto a path of actually being a bit of a way shower, was actually how I connect to that again, how I connect to that very essence of eternal energy, and how I navigate that alongside having a human experience, and that it's okay to have a human experience, because that's also part of our evolution, and how we navigate those situations that life and human existence bring us. But on a soul level, what does that mean? And how we reconnect with that, so that we stand in our authenticity of the soul that we are. So I would
mm,
absolutely say that this was a bit of a marker for me going
yeah,
forward.
yeah. And what were the immediate changes that you possibly made or felt in your life once you read the book the first time?
So I think the biggest thing was understanding that I wasn't my experiences. That wasn't
Mm,
who I was. And I built up a bit of a narrative, victimhood, um, the experiences that around me I totally believed were shaping me, and that was who I was, and took it as that. And actually it helped me to understand that that was just an experience, and that wasn't who I was. But it also helped me to detach, in a positive way, to
mm,
be, as I call, the watchful observer. So I was able to emotionally detach from the things that were going on around me enough to see them, for what they truly were, without the emotion that was wrapped up in them, which was really important. Some of these challenging events, I was a mum of young children, and so that was really important for me, and that was really helpful to be able to stay centered, and yeah, in a better headspace during those times. But it also helped me to, by staying present, um, to not live in the past, which is the place of depression, because we're ruminating and not trying to push into the future, where we can, develop anxieties about what if, because they're unknown. So it really helped me to stay centered, and to stay out of drama triangles, to be able to just
mm,
step away and see things for what they really were. Because it's very easy when you're in that emotive state to get dragged into other things that are resonating at the same vibration. And so it really helped me to kind of have a pause and reset. Um, and I still have moments where, the human experience gets in, and I go, hang on a minute, what am I
yeah,
doing? What's happening here? Let's step back. Let's remember that, this is not who we are. And, just take a breath and recenter. And also the surrender and flow. There's a lot of talk of surrender and flow within this book that was massively important, because if we decide that we are going to choose something, accept the circumstances if we chose it, then we can flow with it with no resistance. And actually, then we're open
Mm,
to releasing and receiving what is for our higher good. Um, so,
mm,
yeah, very important things that came from that for me.
yeah. And I guess, on a surface level, that sounds quite simple. And the reality of it is somewhat different, right? To get into that kind
Absolutely.
of change the way that you think and your sort of habitual thought patterns, etc. So, what was that process like for you, Ginny, to begin with?
So I think it was the initial light bulb moment. And I think with any healing, and this is what he talks about generally, which I resonate with, and actually I kind of sit in the same um, way of thinking, um, is that, sorry, repeat that question, Jane. I went off on a tangent in my mind.
I was saying that on a surface level,
Yes.
reading it might sound easy, like, oh, I can stop resisting, I can go with the flow, and I
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
step back from my human experience and recognize that this isn't making me. But in reality, how challenging is it to change the way that you habitually think and view the world?
Yeah. It is challenging. So initially there was that light bulb moment of, I recognize that. And actually, in any healing, it's the understanding and the acceptance and acknowledgement that this is actually something that I resonate with. Because until you're in that space, no change can even happen anyway, right? Because you're just not acknowledging that it's part of your set of experiences in the life that you're living. So I'm not going to pretend that I read it and it was like, oh, great, that's all the answers. I've got it figured. That's not going to happen again, because that's just not true. With any change practice, with any healing, it's in layers. So there was that initial layer of, okay, yes, I get this, but I'm not quite ready to do anything about it just yet.
Mm,
And then
mm.
there was that settling period and embedding all of that and thinking, okay, now what does that mean? How does it sit with me? Do I feel comfortable, confident, strong enough to actually think about how I can change that? And there will always be times where you would just resort back to that, that lizard thinking of, go back to old hat because you know it. But it was then that constant little bulb that would go, hang on a minute. You do what you do until you know better, but you do know a bit better now. So now how is that going to look? So it was a long process. And as I said, sometimes it will still trip me up. The human experience will always trip us up.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and I think what this book also taught me was that there is no fix. We're not broken. So there's no fix. It's just an acceptance of what is. And there was a lot in there as well about compassion and forgiveness. And that was really important. But yeah, layers,
Yeah.
time, patience, remembering, and yeah, being patient with myself within that process.
And building up that self-awareness of when you
Mm.
catching yourself, like you said, oh, I've put my old hat on and I'm thinking in the way I used to think, and just that self-awareness as it builds up becomes you start doing on a subconscious, unconscious level, don't you? So yeah, awesome. So how has this kind of inspired you to do what you do now in terms of your shamanic teaching and the healing that you do?
So I think
Where did you go next, kind of thing?
yeah, so again, that was in stages. It was really about self-development for me. And I just wanted to be the best I could be for me and my personal journey. Um, and then I suppose it dawned on me that, well, I'm not alone in this, right? There are lots of people out there that are struggling with similar things, and understanding that. And, even if they just had a tiny drop of some of the things that I felt were really life-changing for me, what would that mean for them? And as I say, I don't pretend to have it all figured out, but what I thought was actually by offering, and this took some time, and we're talking, I read this in the early 2000s, and since then I've done lots of different trainings in healing modalities and spiritual development, and all of the things that I now offer. But I came to the point where I thought, actually, this isn't just for me. That's really
Mm,
quite selfish. And I need to be able to, by walking in my authentic steps, and showing myself as me, person I
mm,
have developed to be so far. Who knows where I'll go? But so far, what could that bring to other people? And sometimes people just need someone to light a light that says, okay, we're going to start here. And what does that mean? And where do you want to go? What does your path look like? So for me, it was never about do as I do. It was, hey, I've been in a place of not really knowing where to go next, but knowing I want something. And I never had that. I never had anybody to, show a path to me and,
mm.
teach me what they knew. I was longing for that. And I just thought, well, actually, I'm just going to share my own journey with people and be vulnerable in doing that. And, if it resonates with them and they want to step on and discover who they are, then great, right? Let's
Yeah,
all just be true to ourselves and
yeah,
be who we came on this earthly journey to be in this
mm,
lifetime.
lovely.
So yeah, it shaped a lot of what I offer now, and I resort back to it now, particularly when I'm working one to one with people around sort of spiritual life coaching, etc.
Mm,
Because it strips away all of the stagnant energy and perceptions that we hold, that we just don't quite know how to shed because we don't know how to see things in a different way.
yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, it's been really helpful.
Yeah. So, Ginny, sounds to me, and obviously we know each other, so I know a bit about your past. Um, so it seems like you when you were growing up, you knew that you were a little bit different from your peers and other people in your family, and then you kind of got to a point where you had those issues going on in your life, and you read this book, and then that sparked off a whole other journey. So, for those people who are thinking, well, yes, I'd like something different in my life, and I'd like to maybe get out of being in constant drama or depression or anxiety or um, just feeling more alive. I know it's not like a really simple journey. And there are a lot of people who will stay where they are because it feels like it's safe. They know what the uncomfortableness of their current situation is, and they're dealing with it because they're still alive. And people get stuck there, don't they? Because they fear losing love from other people, etc. So I just wondered if you could share with anyone watching this who's having those thoughts, how was it for you to have to let go maybe of some relationships or some bonds that you had with other people in order for you to keep traveling on your path and being the authentic you? Really long question, sorry about that.
No, no, it's a good question. And it's a really hard question because the truth is, for us to make any change, firstly, we have to acknowledge that something isn't working.
Mm,
And you're right, people do sit in the uncomfortable, comfortable because it's what they know, and the fear of the unknown can be too much. But I would always challenge that, if something um, is giving you fear, that means it's something that should be embraced as change. And actually, as you move forward and as you heal and you evolve as a human, as a soul, naturally there is going to be a shedding because you can't grow without a shedding. And some people are not meant to be with us forever. And that's really tough, but that is true. And people that walk a spiritual path will find that people kind of can move away from them, and that can feel quite daunting. But what you will find is that people then who resonate on the level that you are trying to be, the energy that you are now showing through this evolution and growth, will naturally migrate to you. You will attract people of a similar vibration that will actually nurture and support and encourage you and champion you, celebrate your wins. And that's natural. And it's really difficult as well because, and it's really hard to let things go that have been part of our life because we form attachments around people and things. But we should never really have attachments to anything. We
Yeah.
shouldn't, because, if we want to grow, we can't be attached to anything. It's not healthy. But again, that is a long process and it takes a long time to get to that point. So I would just say, if you are feeling like you are stuck, you're feeling a little bit bound, you're feeling the fear of what else, that is absolutely the time to do something,
Mm.
because your body is trying to grow. It's showing you it's ready for something. And even if it's just a baby step, trying something that's different, that pushes you just a little bit, and the change, even just those small things, can make into actually feeling a sense of pride and fulfillment, and then actually acknowledging your worth and celebrating those wins, even the small ones, encourage you to keep going and to keep moving and keep growing and evolving, both spiritually and physically.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you could answer a question because you mentioned detachment earlier, and now you just mentioned attachment. Can you just explain to people who are watching how you see the difference between attachment and detachment? Because I'm sure that some people are thinking detachment sounds like a really negative thing, and I know it's not, but I'd love you to explain it.
Yeah. So it's around not getting too fixed to something, because it means then putting some kind of um bind around it, which is stifling. So, and people struggle with that because they think, well, if I really love this relationship, if I really love that friendship, if I really, love the house that I live in and the career that I have, then I want to feel really attached to it. You want to feel connected to it mutually. Yeah, so that there is a mutual exchange of energy that feels beneficial for you both, but that is not stifling. So it's not coming from a place where one person can feel that they can't grow and they can't flex and move and become the best of what they are within that connection. When you were attached, it means that you somehow feel that also defines, in a way, a part of you, and that you cannot be yourself without that thing, whatever
Mm,
it is: money, career, sense of place within your family, your relationships, that without that thing, you are not you. And so the reason I talk about detachment, I talk about that in a different way. So when I talk about attachment, it's because you want to feel whole within yourself, enough to have connections with people that don't come with an expectation and a toxic bond. That's what I'm thinking about. And when I talk about detachment, what I'm talking about is being able to separate yourself just slightly from the human experience enough to see how things are on a very soul and energy level, so that you can feel what resonates with you. So it's not coming from a place of ego and human instinct and conditioning, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
definitely. I mean, to me, it sounds very much the same between scarcity and abundance. So that the attachment is all part of that scarcity mindset where you feel like um in order to be a whole person or to be you or to be successful or whatever, you need to cling to certain things. Whereas abundance is all about, that unconditional love and giving and receiving love unconditionally, and being detached from an outcome or anything that will take you back into that scarcity mindset. Does that
Yeah.
resonate with
Yeah.
you?
And that sits really well with trust as well, Jane.
Mm,
So if you can trust that you always will have enough, you trust that you will always have good connections, you trust that you're always going to have people around you that are positive, you don't need to form attachments, you don't need to cling to things, because you trust that that will happen. And that's the thing with the scarcity abundance, that actually when you sit in a scarcity mindset, that's the vibration you're putting out there. So that's what you're going to attract. Whereas when
yeah,
you trust that actually I will always have enough and all the things that are meant for me are going to find me, that's the abundance mindset. Your vibration naturally lifts, and that's what you're going to attract. So yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I've absolutely loved this conversation, Ginny. I love any conversation with you. And so thank you for bringing to our attention The Power of Now by, remind me of the name again.
Eckhart Tolle.
That's it. I told you I had a brain like a sieve today. So if anyone's listening, watching, then do go read the book if Ginny's story has inspired you. And if you'd like to know more about Ginny and how she works and who she works with, I will put some details in the description. And please do get in touch with her. So Ginny, thank you so much. Really, really, truly appreciate you being here today. And to everyone who's watched and listened, big gratitude to you too. Please remember to like and subscribe and share this with your friends. Till the next episode, bye.